I've been discussing time and warping time and time-space with some famous scientists. I'm doing something up in Canada which may sell, they may sell that show called The Truth Is in Our Stars. And I've talked to Michio Kaku and David Suzuki and Dr. Stephen Hawking. And I've tried to get through his book, A Brief History of Time. It's not brief. Everybody I've met who is acquainted with the subject, I'm continually asking, look, I hear space-time all the time. No, space-time, it's space-time. That without space, without time, it's time and the space is the time.
Hard to comprehend what it is.
Well, I don't comprehend what it is, so I ask these very important people who are working in the field, what is space-time? And they say, well, the gravitational force takes the photon of a light and it bends the photon of the light. So without space, without time, you cut the time that cuts. I said, well, wait a minute. If in 13, and I said this to Dr. Kaku, in 13.5 years, he says, no, 13.8 billion years. He corrected me by 0.3 billion years. If that photon, I said to him, if that photon of light at that farthest galaxy takes 13.8 billion years to reach my eye, isn't that time? And he said, yes, but there's space-time and the time and the space, and the space and the time. And I couldn't understand, my opening sentence to everybody, including, it will be to Dr. Hawking, what is space-time? And I can't, and I know 17 people just raised their hands. I'll tell you about space-time. But it's a concept that I just can't get through my head.
Well, you can understand time, the passage of time.
Are you going to explain to me what space-time is?
Yes. And you can understand the idea that there's space, there's a distance between you and these 6,000 people.
Wow. You said that with a measure of pride, too.
Yeah.
Creation, 6,000 people are in the audience.
But it takes a certain amount of time for you to pass from here all the way over to the other side of the auditorium.
Right, that's space.
That is time going, that is time going through space.
You see, that's not what they mean at all. That shows me that you have no idea. I mean, so the guy said, one of the gentlemen said, well, there are 3 dimensions, space, length, width, right? And then you add the concept of time. So something happens within that space, you got time. That's the 4th dimension. Yeah. And I said, well, I get that. Something happens within a cube, and you have time, and then you have length and breadth and width. And I get the, what's the 5th dimension, I said.
That's a fantastic band.
A fantastic band. That was my first thing. So I said, just give me another, because he said there's 11, then he said there's 17, and then I heard lately there's 26 other spaces, dimensions, multiverses. No, wait a minute. So I said, well, just give me one other dimension. I don't care about 16 or 17 or 26. What is the 5th dimension? What is the, give me another dimension. And the answer is, we can't conceive of that.
You know, right.
So
that doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Well, it doesn't mean it does exist. So, I mean, so I said to Dr. Kaku, he said, it's in the, because he's working on string theory. You know about string theory.
Yeah, and I find that incredibly confusing too.
But we're not talking about the stuff you wrap a package about, Adam. Yeah. It's vibration of some kind in a string. Okay? So I said, he said, it's like music. I said, well, I understand an orchestra with vibrating instruments. I got that. What do you play? What's your instrument? What do you do? When you get up in the morning, doctor, what do you do? And he says, It's all in my head. I think. I said, well, how do you prove what you're thinking exists? Because it's all theory. He said, well, I've got this very elegant
numbers, equations.
equation, yeah. Very E-B divided into 7 to 4. It's all in his head. How do you prove a black hole? How do you know those gravitational waves proved the collision of two black holes?
Somehow, eventually, they are able to observe phenomena.
No, they can't observe. It's too far away. It's too theoretical. How do we know what they're saying is true? You know what it really is? It's all science fiction.
So does that make you a skeptic?
No, well, science fiction says, this is a story that I'm making up. And there's this thing called wormholes. And that's a science fiction concept. Although these scientists say there are wormholes. How do you know?
The mystery of science fiction is what I'm talking about. Science and science fiction are essentially the same.
We released this image showing you how the Great Red Spot has changed from 1992, it was 1999 when this image was released. And it's sort of an artistic presentation of the images. Well, actually it's a cheat, because the image of Jupiter in the background isn't a full image, it's actually got a huge chunk cut out of it. So the reason why we had this beautiful artistic foray of the Great Red Spot was just actually to cover up the fact that we didn't have a full image of Jupiter.
The mystery of science fiction is what I'm talking about. Science and science fiction are essentially the same.
And in case there are any conspiracy theorists out there, how would you prove to us that you're in zero gravity?
The mystery of science fiction is what I'm talking about. Science and science fiction are essentially the same. Science and science fiction are essentially the same.
It is Photoshop, but it's has to be. It is Photoshop, but it's has to be.
Blue Marble 2.0. NASA's Rob Simmons made this.
It is Photoshop.
Let me tell you something. They must have been founding members of the Flat Earth Society. They would not have believed that the world was round. We don't have time for a meeting of the Flat Earth Society.
Let me just underscore, you don't need to be a scientist to know that the Earth is round.
The current members of the Flat Earth Society in Congress.
People at high levels of aspiration who are the Flat Earth. We have Flat Earth Caucus.
The Earth isn't flat. In other breaking news, the world is round, not flat.
And you don't need to be a scientist.
If I say that the world is round and someone else says it's flat, that's worth reporting. But you might also want to report on a bunch of scientific evidence that seems to support the notion that the world is round.
Is NASA lying to us?